Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
We have Dani with Wicked Awesome Gardening joining Lisa and I today. Welcome, Dani.
Hello.
How's it going?
Not bad. Not bad. Crazy, but not bad.
Mm-hmm. How was your weekend?
I just finished a run of Matilda the Musical with my theater company. This time I was directing,
That is
first
so
time
awesome.
director.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy, very stressful, but I learned a lot. I even designed a whole lighting program for the whole show, and so I'm kind of proud of that.
Oh, that's
Nice.
so cool.
Never done lighting before, but
Oh my
I
goodness.
ran the board for the shows and everything. It was pretty great.
That is
That's awesome.
amazing.
Hey, Blue.
Hey, Gear Gryden, Life in the Piedmont. Good to see you. Blue Self-Reliance. Hello. So I knew you sang and I knew that you did some things with the theater, but I had no idea you were involved at that level.
Oh yeah, I'm on the board of the theater group.
Wow.
Hey,
Yep.
Suburban Hillbilly and Arc
That is
Wildman.
awesome.
Our new
This
land.
particular group I actually co-founded with my friend Paul in 2011, and then I left for a while from like 2014 until 2021,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, I came back and just jumped right back in. So
How
on the
fun.
board and helping him make it good.
Yeah, that is awesome. Hey, Suburban Hillbilly, Arc Wildman Survival, Devon, Our New Land. Good to see you all. Thanks
Hey,
for
Suburban Hillbilly. Remember we were talking about my tomatoes on Friday? The ones in the first greenhouse already look a lot better and are growing. So the other greenhouse, they just need some time to adjust as well. Just wanted to give an update. I was pretty shocked.
That's
Some of
awesome.
my tomatoes got scalded in the new
Oh.
greenhouse because first of all, it's in a different location than the other one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's clear plastic versus frosted.
Yeah.
It was a day that I felt it was very cool out and the greenhouse didn't need to be opened.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was before I had my thermometer in there,
Mm-hmm.
and the sun gets on that one later,
Mm-hmm.
and I forgot because it's a new greenhouse.
Yeah.
So my seedlings all got like scalded.
I
But
saw that you shared it, right? You've got a video because I saw that and I thought they still look good though.
they
So
look
they
good.
bounced back quick.
Yeah, they look good, but like the problem is it was getting like that brown leaf curl
Mm-hmm.
because it got too hot in there, and the problem is that they were not large enough per se to cut all the brown off.
Yeah.
So that was my conundrum. And, Suburban Hillbilly was like, because people in the chat were like, cut it all off. And Suburban Hillbilly was like, a stick is not a tomato. And I said, thank you. So I followed the advice, and I've been pruning them as they grow,
Uh-huh.
getting the rest of the brown off, and they've been doing really well. So thank you, Suburban
Awesome.
Hillbilly, so much. Just so you know, I do listen, and I can, even though I'm not this like wannabe gardener, I'm also not stupid in the fact that when I hear things, I'm like, oh my word.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, but you are gardening, therefore you are a gardener. You know
Ugh.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Maybe
Ugh. I
wicked
don't want to
awesome
be.
gardener like Dani.
Ugh.
Embrace it. No.
I don't want to be. I'll take the greenhouses anytime. I don't like the outdoor stuff. Thanks, Suburban Hillbilly. That's sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah. So, Dani, do tell us a little bit about yourself for folks who may not know you.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so I've been running this channel for a little over 2 years, and I started gardening. Well, technically, I started gardening when I was a kid because my parents gardened and they made me garden. And of course, when you're a kid, you don't want to, but some stuff did sink in. So a few years ago, I had my apartment, and I'm like, this porch is pretty sunny. I bet I could grow a tomato here. And that tomato became 2 tomatoes, which became 4 tomatoes, which became peppers, and then spinach and lettuce and radishes and Swiss chard and carrots and peas and blueberries, strawberries, bush beans. Like the list went on. I had just this little 2x5 porch or 3x5 porch covered in vegetables in pots going down the stairs. And then my landlord sold the building, so I had to move. Got a new apartment. This landlord says I can build whatever crazy garden I want. So I went, oh, well, now I'm going to go nuts. 5 raised beds, 4 4x10s, a 10x12, 20 feet of cattle panel arch, like on either side. So
it was
20
beautiful.
foot row, 40 feet of growing space.
Mm-hmm.
And 8 months later, the landlord said, oh, I'm also selling the building. And the new owner wants to live in your unit, so you have to move again. So there went that beautiful garden all the way from the ground up and then back to the ground in one growing season. It was like ridiculous. And it still hurts. It still hurts.
I remember watching your videos when you were going through that, and I didn't realize at the time that all of the work that was put into putting that up and going through only one growing season.
Yep.
Like that piece of it. I guess I thought maybe you had it a little longer than that or something.
No,
Well, your garden said very awesome garden at that last apartment. I remember it. Hey, LP.
Hey, LP.
Yep. Oh, I love that space. It was so beautiful. I grew so much food.
You did.
In like a 20 by 30 foot space.
Mm-hmm.
So much food.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so I said, you know what? I am never renting again. I am never paying these disgusting, like it was $1,800 a month for that apartment. It was insane.
Wow.
Girl, let me tell you, we've never rented only because when Ryan and I met later in life, we decided we were going to scrounge and sell everything we had to buy a house, and we did. And so it just blows my mind because here where I am, we were just talking about this yesterday, is that they've turned some older hotels into studio apartments because renting is impossible here because there's so many vacation rentals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're local, it's really hard. $1,500 a month.
Yep, same here.
And in
you want a studio
Asheville,
apartment?
they were $2,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that $1,800 a month apartment just from 2 years that I moved out of 2 years ago. Now they would rent it for $2,200 easy. I had a break on that rent because I knew the landlord.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't afford to rent. So I moved at 40 years old, moved back in with my parents. And, like this right here is my kitchen, but it was my childhood bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm never renting again. And I just this year, back in January, I closed on my first home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got 2 acres of land on a beautiful river with a trashed mobile home. And I only paid, and this is going to sound like super high for some people, depending on where you live, but $50,000.
That's
a steal.
I think that's good anywhere.
In New Hampshire, well, you'd be surprised the amount of people that comment on my Facebook reels saying, you got ripped off. I got my land. I got 10 acres for $10,000. And I'm like, where?
No building.
Where and when? Where and when?
Yeah.
You've got structure on there.
Yeah.
Even though it needs work, you've got structure on there.
It needs work.
You can buy raw land, but I mean, here we can't even touch raw land. But I mean, yeah, I'm telling you, the days of $50,000 land, I'm sorry, is just, it's rare. So kudos to you. I'm proud.
I think
1 week after I closed, somebody called me and offered me $90,000 cash.
Wow.
And I turned it down.
Yep.
Because $50,000 and the trailer was considered trash, a total loss. It's not habitable at the moment. And so once it's got a habitable home on it, once I clear out the brush and the manicure the property, I mean, it's $150,000 property just at baseline.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yep.
$100,000 of instant equity.
Yep.
$1,000 a month in a decent neighborhood. Our son pays for an apartment in Arizona, and yeah, it's ridiculous. It's right up there towards 2,000. Also, it isn't
Oh, yeah.
2,000. It's less than that, but
Yeah.
My
Life in the
mortgage payment
Piedmont.
will be $1,060 a month for 5 years,
oh my goodness! And then it's yours.
and then it's mine.
How amazing is that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Smart. That's the way to do it. That's why Ryan and I have always done well when because we sold our home in
Wow.
Connecticut 11 years after we bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to North Carolina and we sold our home 4 or 5 years after we bought it. Then we bought another home in another part of North Carolina and closer to Asheville. But each time we've sold, we've done well because we've made sure to get in there and go cheap. This was the most expensive house we've ever bought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything we bought was under 200 grand because there's no way that I'm going to spend that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a mansion.
Life in the Piedmont. Yep. That is definitely a blessing for you guys. My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything here is a lot of summer, a lot of
vacationers,
vacation rentals, but also people who have second homes and all that. So there's a lot of places here that are millions and millions of dollars sitting empty most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying to heat them because they're not here in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. So, I mean, this thing does need a lot of work because the story basically is that it was owned by an elderly couple, and the land has been in this family since this particular town in New Hampshire was settled.
Wow.
So we're talking the mid 1700s.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, they subdivided it and put their kids in houses on the, and yeah, and then they passed away. But there was like a nursing home debt to the state for the wife. And, they didn't end up taking it in time. The grandkids moved in, and they were, let's say, maybe not the most upstanding people. There's definitely, I found a lot of DCF paperwork in there, and there seems to have been illicit substance issues. So they were basically squatting there against the wishes of the rest of the family. Mm-hmm. And then nobody was paying the taxes on it. So the town took the property for taxes, sold it to, an investor at auction. Mm-hmm. And then I bought it from him. Mm-hmm. So he turned a quick profit, but I still ended up getting a deal. Yeah. So before they moved out, they definitely sold what they could. The agent told me that they had stolen all the plumbing out of the place and ripped out all the wiring, but that wasn't true. That was all there. Cool. But we did figure out that they didn't winterize it. So there were some burst pipes, and that's why there's a couple pipes missing, but it's very minor. But we did discover that they took the furnace and sold it for scrap.
Of course they did. That's a big thing.
Oh, yeah. So they were heating the house they had a wood stove in a little room built off the back, and they removed the window and just had a box fan blowing the air into the
Oh my goodness.
Very classy.
But I discovered on Saturday when the plumber came up, and he was going to, now that we've got the power on, he was going to power up the water pump, the well pump and all of that, and test some things. Mm-hmm. Well, he opened up the casing. They stole the motor out of the well pump.
Oh no! Oh my!
So I get a quote for that tomorrow, but
jeez.
And we have to move in 4 weeks.
So you've got to move in there in 4 weeks. So
because
move in.
My ex-husband, when he found out I bought a house and the girls wanted to move in with me, he goes, "Okay, well, we're going to move to Pennsylvania." Put his house up for sale, and so we have until the 18th to get the girls somewhere to go.
Oh, geez.
So we've got to get that house ready in 4 weeks.
So you're making sure you've got water, you've got septic, you've got
Mm-hmm.
electric.
Yep, the electrical's
Very,
done, so that's good.
thank goodness. Yeah.
But we got to get that plumbing on, and then we've got to get a heating system installed by the end of August. So
You could always put a tent in the backyard.
good. I
Hey,
mean,
when my mom and dad were
good.
building a house in New York, upstate New York, which was eventually their retirement home. I mean, we were cooking with propane stoves and stuff like that because the electric wasn't on yet and stuff like that. So
Yeah. The one thing I'm just concerned about is plumbing.
yep,
Like I can rough it.
yeah.
My kids are not accustomed.
I hear that.
Hey,
Hey,
Leanne.
Leanne.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Dani, I'm not being rude. I'm posting links while we're
It's okay.
chatting.
That's okay.
But they're
Yeah. So my
Lisa's
kids are just a little softer.
yeah,
Put it that way.
yeah.
What's that, Tammy?
I was saying you're right about the tent. Shoot, in northern Arizona, where we had significant snowfall, one of the top 10 places for snowfall. A lot of people don't know that about northern Arizona, and people would live in tents. And there's so much public land that you're allowed to stay in one place for 2 weeks. Sometimes people are able to push it longer, but they get those tents, and they would have a little fireplaces in them. I mean, there's a couple people that we still watch that did that. Something that my husband and I had thought about doing, but
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what a lot of people do here is so what they'll do, one of my neighbors does it, is they'll rent out their home during the tourist season
mhm,
and they take the
Mm.
camper and all they do is every 2 weeks move the camper because
mhm.
you
That's
can camp for
yeah.
2 weeks in the Forest Service. And that's what they'll do is every 2 weeks.
Yep, you can't. 15
Yep.
minutes to clean your house. I love that about being in an RV because we
Mhm.
did stay in an RV for, gosh, about 3 months when we had sold our house in the valley and then moved to northern Arizona. And I loved it. I would have been fine staying in that trailer longer.
Yep.
But yeah, we also couldn't pass up an opportunity when we found a good place. It was one of those things, hard to find kind of issues. So
And
Mhm.
a lot of people here, like a lot of people have RVs. It's like a big thing to have an RV here.
mhm.
But a lot of the things that people will do is they will build the shelter overhead.
Yep.
Here, it's mainly for snow because of the weight of the snow. But let's face it, RVs, even a year into it, are leaking.
Mhm.
So if they're living in them for any length of time or they're storing them, they build a shelter just over the top of it.
Mhm.
And it's great. Hey, Cindy Pathways.
Hey, pathways.
No, I mean I am really excited about the place. It's already got a chicken coop that just needs to be cleaned out because there's bags of trash like waist high in there.
Yep.
So just got to clean it out, give it a good wash, spruce up the nest boxes, and add some roosting bars back in.
Mhm.
And boom, we got a chicken coop.
Yeah, that's good.
So-
We had to do that here. Ours, disgusting. I think that's why I'm a little hesitant about goats because I did have to clean out an area where goats were.
Mhm. Did you see the baby goat we were surprised with last night?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, she's so dang cute. My husband and I were outside and watering the gardens in the evening, and we're just outside people. So we were outside and it was getting to be dusk and we heard this sound and I was like, "What is that?" And my husband's like, "That sounds like a baby deer." We forgot that my daughter has goats that are pregnant. Like that thought didn't even cross our mind. And we went back there to the goat pen and we saw all the goats come. And here's this little one and I was like, "What is that?" I didn't have I wear glasses, everybody. I can't see far away. I can see near. I don't know whatever sided it is. Can't see. So I didn't have my glasses on. I couldn't see. I can see you guys because I can see close up, but I just can't see far away. And I'm like, "What is that?" I didn't know it looked gray and it was walking and my husband could identify it first. He's like, "That's a baby goat." And the mama had rejected this baby goat. So we were
Oh.
hearing this baby out there just crying and throwing a fit, and she was hungry. She was dry. So my husband went and picked her up, and I ran up here and got the kids. And yeah, so it just one. So she just had one. Thank goodness, right? Can you imagine if there was more that she'd rejected? Like, and the baby was dry. So I don't know how long she was out there. You know what I mean? For her to be so dry.
A
Hey,
while.
Yeah.
And she was very hungry. So I'm sure they were up all night long, Katie and Blue, milking the mama goat and getting
So she
that
only had one?
just one. They looked around to make sure there was no other one that she had had anywhere.
I've been following Katie's Instagram and her channel, and it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Cute.
So
I can't wait for my goats.
the homesteading mama, that's my daughter, Katie. She was Acorn Acres, and I think if you look for her, you still have to look at Acorn Acres, and I think she'll come up that way. But her channel name is actually the Homesteading Mama.
Very cool.
And it's so funny because she was saying, we need goat's milk. I need to, because she's been busy on making sourdough like regular. Like she's making 2 loaves at a time. She's like, we're not buying bread anymore. Mom, quit buying bread. You know how to do this. So
hey, Charles Bushcraft.
Hey, Bushcraft family. Good to see you, Charles. But the little baby was a total surprise to all of us. Thank goodness we were out there and heard her.
Oh man.
Yeah, no kidding.
They're so
And a doeling to boot.
little. Looks like a donkey. I don't know what they're going to name her. She has the black stripe down her back like a donkey does.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
She is.
So, Dani, tell us about your goals for this year. Sounds like we've got water, septic, moving in 4 weeks. That's a lot.
So your goals for the 4 weeks are moving in and getting it all set with the house, and then
6 months after too.
Yeah.
How about the garden, Dani? No.
Yeah, there will not be too much gardening going on. I have a couple of my ollie beds that I can, set up there and throw some dirt in, and I'll probably grow some like fall crops. But biggest focus, just getting into the house. So we should be in there before the end of June. And then as soon as we're in, the very first thing I've got to do is get the chicken coop ready for the ladies and then move them up. And then the race is on for goat shelter and pasture. So, because I'll break the news here just to you guys, but it's not coming out on my channel or my Facebook reels or anything for a while.
Maybe don't do it here then.
No, well,
it's up to
I
you.
feel so excited.
I think she just did though.
I'm so excited. I got some goaties. I got my goats.
Goodness.
But they don't come home until until I've got the infrastructure ready. So I've got to go and But I had them kind of fall into my lap with a good offer. And they are, or at least the doling in a weather. And the doe is gorgeous and very well bred and registered and all of that. So I'm very excited for that.
Got the whole
She's so pretty
thing. Yeah, my daughter, all of hers are the ADGA.
Yep, she's ADGA. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. They're so dang adorable.
They're so cute.
The boys stink. I won't lie. The boys just are smelly little dudes.
Yep. Oh yeah,
the girls don't.
The breeder, had me came in and had me tour her place, and like I got to go in with the buck pen and scratch on them. Her bucks are extremely friendly. They're just like, hi, how you doing? And even though they're not in rut, they're still stinky.
Yep.
Not terrible, but I can just imagine buck smell in the fall.
Ugh.
Yeah, they just do. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's not like it's horrid. Like, oh my gosh, like, you know, hold your breath. It's
It
not.
reminded me of like a ferret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ferrets are just
Yeah.
generally stinky.
Yep. We had a ferret. I could see that too. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't stand myself right now, let alone
Yeah.
because I've been shoveling horse crap. But I have pigs, so I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You love them anyways.
Oh, I love my pigs.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking coonies at some point.
Me
I will have 2
too.
litters the beginning of July.
Me too.
Oh, not yet, not yet. That's a couple years out for me, or
Jewish redneck.
potentially on a bigger property, because I don't know. I don't know if I can do the size garden that I plan on.
Right.
The fruit trees, the berry bushes, and the goats, and pigs.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Hey, the Jewish redneck
Step
prepper.
by step. Step by step.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get in there because otherwise you're gonna get
Chemicals
so
and family.
overwhelmed. And you're just, I mean, let's face it, just moving alone is overwhelming.
Huge.
But now you've
Yeah.
got moving in and having to get everything done in 4 weeks. Like you'd be setting yourself up for failure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not worried about getting gardens in or I'm not worried about any of that. It's just getting in, and then, you know, she just doesn't want to keep the goats through the winter. So she's like, they can stay here until you're set, as long as you're set up by mid-fall.
Yep.
So that gives me plenty of time to, you know, run fence, to build their shelter, all of that stuff.
Yep.
So by
Kelly.
September, I'll have goats.
Hey,
Hey,
G
Kelly.
Mama Rose and Twisted Lemon Adventures. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming.
Somebody said something I wanted to go back. Oh, Life in the Piedmont. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I do want to plant some things, you know, like goats. Like I'm trying to do as much silvopasture as I can do on such a small scale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting some willow cuttings since they grow so fast, and goats absolutely love willow.
I didn't know that.
Very good for them. Willow is very good for them from what I've researched. So I'm thinking if I put the tree inside a pallet fence, they can munch on what grows out of it, but the tree can still grow up and do its thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to plant all my blackberries down the side of their pasture so they can munch on whatever comes in.
Uh-huh.
But then, that means I only have to maintain the row on one side.
Yeah.
That's a
The
good idea.
property here had goats on it. They had a lot of animals here, but they had goats on it. And one of the things that they did was they took hardware cloth and wrapped, because we have the ponderosa pines, they wrapped all the ponderosa pine trees.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is still up. And we left it because if it was on there, we left it.
Right.
Hey,
So I mean, that's helpful too.
Yeah, because your pigs will girdle trees too, right?
They usually go for the root.
Okay.
Do they really? Good to know.
Yeah, so commercial hogs are like, they do a great job, but like that one pasture where the girls are, it's improved, but it's also kind of difficult to manage because the larger pigs, when they were in there, uprooted huge boulders, uprooted trees and everything. And we wanted them to do that.
Yeah.
But it's created some issues for us because now we can't get in there and do what we need to do like we can the other two, because they really tore it up.
Mm-hmm.
But the coonies, they'll, like, Grant roots more than Sherman does. And a lot of the times they'll root when in the fall, when the nutrients go back down into the root. And so they'll be digging things up. But like Maggie and Winston totally tore up everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like the coonies, because they're less harder on the
Mm-hmm.
pastures, given that we're so small. Because we don't mow anything anymore. We just will weed whack or mow right up by the house. But what we do is we will take the fencing, the electric net fencing, and move them around the property. Because last year I said to Ryan, I'm like, we're not, because we have to feed hay all year because we don't have a lot of grass.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is put the electric fencing around, and we might get a month or two without hay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, for my house, the only trees, like mature trees on the property, are along the riverbank, which is great because it's holding my bank
Mm-hmm.
steady,
Mm-hmm.
and also creates a like a windbreak.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is just scrub and brush, and the goats are gonna really enjoy that. I'll definitely have to feed less
Mm-hmm.
good.
because of
It'll
how
go
much brush
fast
there is.
though. I mean,
Huh?
wherever so we had put our goat area into the woods. So where
Hmm.
we've got like wooded, like you, I think you got some wooded too, right? A little bit towards the edge.
Yeah, it's just like scrub and brush and small trees and
We've got okay, so
vines.
we got woods on the property, but we have like the about 3 acres of it where the homes are and the grass areas, and then it goes woods. And
AT Mama.
we actually put the fencing for the goats pen into the woods, and I'm telling you, I don't know, 2 weeks tops, it was knocked down.
Yeah.
I mean, they
How
were.
many goats though?
We had at the time, gosh, was it 7 or 9? I think it was
Okay.
7. No, it was
I'm
7.
gonna
Then we had the
okay,
two
so I'll
babies.
have
Now
I'll
we got.
have the two.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna look for another doeling.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, that's so exciting! They are
yeah,
so
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 I'll have
exciting.
two
gorgeous. Oh my
two
gosh.
does, two does and a wether.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually when I do get a buck,
Mm-hmm.
actually the breeder of the brother sister pair that I'm getting, she said, I'll throw in with it, because I know where they're going. I know, because it's like, so it turned out she's someone local to me. And I was like, and then I've been following her on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, oh, hey, we'll be at the town Earth Day celebration, showing off the goats. So I went to go look because I'm like, oh, goat babies.
Go
And then
baby.
I walk up and she goes, hey, Dani. And I'm like,
Who are
and she
you?
watches my channel.
Oh, that's awesome.
Ah,
So she knew me, and I've been watching her channel. She's on Iron Mountain Farm. She's only got like 100 subscribers, but she's very, very new channel. But she yeah, so we talked, and her doeling was just like my little dream goat. She's this pretty white
Aw.
thing, pretty white with black and a little bit of brown, and
Mark.
yeah,
hey Barb.
and so pretty. And I'm just like, oh, and blue eyes. She's
Mm-hmm.
not pulled,
Do they call
but that's okay.
do they call them flashy there? That's a term that
I
was
don't know what her official color is
but
called,
she
but
sounds well, the way it was just explained to me was flashy goats are your really pretty colored blue-eyed goats.
I'd call her flashy. I would.
Mhm, that's
Her
what she
name's
sounds like.
Coriander,
Coriander. Oh,
Oh,
I love it.
and
hey
Hey,
they call
heroic
her
pepper.
Cori for short.
oh,
They're keeping her sister, just because her sister is like just like ever so slightly much sweeter. But
mm-hmm.
they're all very friendly, very well handled. Like I went over to visit them yesterday, and they're just like scritch me, scritch me, scritch me, hi, scritch me, scritch me, scritch me.
Aw.
Um,
People just don't realize sometimes how important it is to handle your animals a
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
lot
Yeah.
because like I did a short on or I did a reel on calling my pigs when
I
and
saw
having
that
them come
reel. It was
over.
so cute.
And I mean, but here's the thing, like, I was saying in one of my videos that, I came out we were exhausted, slept in, and on a Sunday I come out with Diesel on a leash, and we all know how Diesel feels about pigs now.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to love them. I don't know what the problem is, but
Jealous.
yeah. So anyway, I come out and I look over at the coop, and Grant is over by the chicken coop, and he's not in his pen. And so I've got Diesel on a leash.
The Wanderer.
I'm in my pajamas, and all I had to do, I turned around, I said, Grant, what are you doing? And he comes running over to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mhm.
I had to go inside to let Diesel off because Diesel's just like
Hey,
ready to
Joe,
fight
Garden
Grant.
State Gardener.
But it's just handling is so important because I know the piglets I sold last year, the people that got them were just like, they're so sweet. And,
Mhm.
they have kids and everything. And it's just so much nicer when you handle
Yeah.
your animals all the time.
Yes, yes.
These two, they're
Hey, Jack.
just at weaning age, so they're being weaned right now, and they've already had her up on the milk stand, like
Mhm,
grooming and pretending. Oh, now we're going to milk,
mhm.
That's
So they're
great.
already,
Awesome.
training her to the stand, even though she's not going to even be bred this year. She'll be too small.
And I
She'll
think
be about 7 months
Right.
old, but she'll
it's
be too small.
it's so awesome, and your kids are going to be able to be around animals. And I was just reading Heroic Prepper's comment. I think it's so important for kids to grow up around animals. Our kids did,
Mhm.
and our daughter is still, Katie, she is just crazy about all animals. She just
Yeah.
loves them. Like I do too. I'm just saying, like, they're great for your kids because they grow up with such a great love for animals.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I
She
mean, my kids are
thing.
already in college, but
Still.
I'm
yep.
going to excuse myself for a second because I think somebody's at my door. I'll be right
Mhm.
back.
All right. Yeah. No worries. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm so excited for those two, and then I want to find another doeling
Mm-hmm.
that will be similar age and size.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Although I'm thinking of looking like far afield from the area, because so New England,
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, has a ton of really amazing Nigerian dwarf goat breeders.
Uh-huh. Okay, that's what ours are. Is that what you're getting? I was wondering
Yes.
kind of.
Oh, they
I
are.
think
Yep. They're
also
Nigerian dwarfs, the
dwarves.
Nigerian dwarf goats. And so I'd
I'm
like to bring
short,
in,
so I
huh?
like short animals.
Yes. That's the thing is I'm a small person. I thought I wanted Nubians because they're so pretty with their big floppy ears and they're
Uh-huh.
so cute.
Yeah.
And then I saw a Nubian in person
Mm-hmm.
and they're gigantic.
They're
Yes.
big. That's what I'm talking about.
You can ride that thing into battle.
Yeah.
Like, nope, 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 nope. I need something small enough that I can muscle it around. And, if I need to. But
Look at
yeah,
this comment, Suburban Hillbilly.
they're either cute, tasty, or both.
Cute, tasty, or both.
Facts right
Well,
there.
the woman that I was talking to, the
Out of a
breeder of
thousand
these
babes.
goats, I happen to mention, I'm like, she asked me, she goes, so you're gonna breed, you're gonna, you want them for dairy and for sales. She goes, and I have to ask everybody that I sell a goat to, what happens if you can't sell the kid?
Mhm.
And I said, well, honest answer, that's why I wanted registered goats, because for one thing, they are easier to sell and
Mhm.
they sell for higher and they cost the same to raise.
Mhm. Yeah.
But, there's a bit of a with selling wethers. If you sell a buck, he's a breeding buck. He's got lines. And then, but selling pet wethers, pet goats get bounced and bounced about, there's, so you rehome them to a pet home, but then they get rehomed and then rehomed and rehomed.
Yep.
And so you have to be very careful where you sell a wether. You got to really vet that home, because wethers don't really have a purpose other than pets and companions.
Right.
Cedric, my wether, when I eventually get a buck, will go to be my buck buddy. But I said, honestly, if I couldn't sell a wether kid, I would probably send him to freezer camp. And like,
Mhm.
I hope you don't like, not sell them to me based on that. And she goes, nope, that's the perfect answer. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
goes, because, you know, you've got to get rid of kids. And if you can't get rid of them, they can't just go to an, potential hoarder abuse situation. I'm like, I will eat that goat.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of accounts that I follow that are having trouble getting rid of kids this year.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And they're registered and they're having trouble getting rid of them because I think the market is just so flooded with them.
I think a lot of people, chickens too, a lot of people got into animals with the pandemic, and then they're starting to realize it doesn't fit their lifestyle or
Right.
whatever it is. And so they're getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that what my daughter has said is that it's seeming like it's more difficult to sell the goats. Not that she sold a lot of them in the past, but she's not
Mhm.
getting as much of a response as she did in Arizona when we were up
Right.
north. But I'm
Mhm.
betting that they probably sold a lot better when we were down in the valley, which we didn't have goats for sale then, but um, only because there are a larger community of people that will eat goat. Like there would
Mhm.
be restaurants called birrerias. It's hard to say. And it was like Mexican food, but it was made with goat meat.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some Caribbean dishes with
Mm-hmm.
goat,
Yep.
and it's delicious.
Yep. Somebody said in here, goat meat tastes better than beef.
Yeah, Kelly at Mickelson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So my goats will never go to an unapproved home, and if I can't find them an approved home, my belly approves. So
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, I think some of it has to do with what states you're selling them in. Like for like Tennessee and stuff, there's been such an influx of homesteaders in there that everybody's selling goats, so it's harder to sell them there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, if you're in Arizona, like you said, it might be a little
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a goat person.
Has anybody in the chat processed any goats before? I'm actually wondering, like, if you have to, if you're going to be using them for meat, if you need to do that before they're a certain age.
probably, I mean,
You know what I mean? Summer sausage.
I'm assuming it's the same with you have to castrate like you would for
Mm-hmm.
because of the taint. I mean, if you can smell a buck, can you
Yeah,
imagine what it
mhm.
would taste like?
that's what my husband's like. I'd eat goat, but I don't think I'd ever be hungry enough
Yeah,
to
I
eat
mean, I'd
goat.
probably. I don't know this from personal experience, but I mean, I'd probably like by 6 months old
Mm-hmm.
or so, because they grow so fast,
Mm-hmm. Hey,
then they'd
Yeah.
Lucy.
probably still be fairly tender.
I
Mm-hmm.
know that for the Kuni pigs, after we had the hernia issues, I took an online class that became available on suckling pigs.
Oops, see, I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Casting
And
6 to 8 months.
process 6 to 8 months. Good to know.
they had suckling pig, and they were talking about if you have one that has a scrotal hernia like that, you can end up processing them at like 6 months
Mm-hmm.
and not have to, for the most part, you wouldn't have to worry about the taint since you can't castrate them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good to know.
Hmm.
Because that was one of
Love
the
these
things
chats.
We were trying to figure out, like if that happened
Mhm.
again, what would we
Yeah.
do? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to do that again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
going to be
and
fun, Danny.
yeah, and I mean, I kind of like, I've been thinking about, when I get pigs, and I've had this conversation like with my nanny kids because, I told them I'm going to have goats and I might get some pigs, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to just have these big giant piggies," and I'm like, "Not really, because I'm going to have them for a while, and then I'm going to turn them into bacon," and they're like, "Oh no." Yeah,
Oh,
and yes, I explained this to a 10-year-old kid, and I'm like, because I'm like, "You eat bacon.
mm-hmm.
Why is it so wrong
Yeah.
that I eat my bacon?"
Yep.
And they're like, "But you love that pig." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I love that pig enough to give it a better life. Do you know what happens to the
Exactly.
pig you're eating in that bacon that came from the grocery store?"
Yeah.
And then I explain, and they're like, "But," and then they go back to, "It would still be so hard because you love that pig." And I'm like,
It would
"Yep,
be. It
I
is.
love it enough to give it a wonderful life and give it a few bad seconds."
Yep.
Hey,
Shoot.
Dee,
I
quick
cried
question.
for our meat birds.
Yep.
I mean,
It's
I'd
okay.
like to try and do some meat birds this
I
fall.
just separated myself from it. We had a process over here. Maybe I'll try to video some of it next time. My daughter gets on to me. She's like, "Mom, you don't video enough stuff. Nobody knows what you're doing." But
It's hard. You got a lot going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And but we did. We had the station where they were dispatched separate from where I was plucking the chickens and cleaning them. Oh, plucking the chickens, and then there was a different station for the cleaning, the gutting them and whatnot. And I was separate from that where I was. So my husband was the gutter.
I will say, I mean, I'm still coming at all of this from the side of ignorance of it. I've never actually dispatched or processed an animal yet.
That was I've helped my husband do deer, but that was my first time processing chickens and having my hands in it so much. Like, I don't know, deer's different. It's just different. You know what I mean? And what happens is when I would help with the deer, he'd already got it out in the field, and he actually had to gut it in the field to get it to on the quad to bring it up. Anyway, it was when I helped, that's what he had already done. So I missed out on a lot of the part of it, but
so this is a strange thing that popped up and I stumbled across, and I haven't seen a single channel or video really on this, except for one obscure video from a couple of years ago when I went to search. Deer as a homestead animal, fallow deer, being that they're small, they don't take a ton of space. But I saw someone as homesteading, raising fallow deer as their primary meat source.
Really?
Which I found very interesting.
That is interesting.
When I lived in upstate New York, there were some deer farms. And it was pretty wild. But
all right,
that may be something I want to look into when I have more space, because I really think I'm probably going to live here for a few years, and then I'm probably selling and trying to find something bigger.
Yeah. So there was a deer farm in northern Arizona, and I thought that it was just for people to go and pet deer and stuff. I didn't know that. I didn't know they were actually.
Well, there's a farm near me, and they're you go there and you pick berries and apples and things like that. But they have they also have animals in the petting zoo, but then they have a section that's a small herd of fallow deer, and there's a sign up there that these are here for education and for meat. And I'm like, that's really interesting. So I started to look into it, but
that's that to me, that's just thinking of what I saw in northern Arizona. That's like a side hustle opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, is because you can go out and you can harvest your own deer in the wild and all of that, but you can't sell that. Or I don't know about other areas of the country, but you certainly can't sell it here.
You know what you don't, but because my husband's always been a hunter, and we've always had deer or elk in our freezer. But we have bartered with our deer meat before. I had a friend who, her and her son went to Alaska and they fished for salmon, and they got halibut and salmon.
Yes.
And we bartered a swap for deer and salmon, deer and beef, just different things. So it's kind of.
Yeah. So you can do that person to person, but you can't market it.
Yeah.
But
I guess not.
If you had the space, and so, you got you some fallow deer, and then
Yeah.
I mean, I love venison, and I don't know anyone who hunts, and I really want some venison. So good. When I was pregnant, I was a surrogate mom twice. And when I was pregnant with that first surrogate baby, it was sometime in the fall, and I wanted venison jerky so bad, but all I could order online was Jamaican spice
Yeah.
deer venison jerky, and I'm like, no, I just want plain venison. I just want some plain dried venison, please. And I couldn't find it,
Give
and
me
I was
some
tortured.
fried back straps. Come on now.
Oh,
I mean, my dad like cooked rabbit for us when I was a little kid. I remember it like this one time. They made like they told me it was chicken and dumplings, and then they told me it was rabbit, and I'm like, it was pretty good because I was like 5, and and I had venison when I was a kid. But then I went to visit a friend when I was 18. She lives in Pennsylvania, and when they heard she was coming, they went out and shot me a deer. Um, So they went out and they got a deer, and we made tacos
nice.
out of that deer meat. I made a goulash. It was so good, and I want more,
Oh my!
so much more.
So I have to share, Lisa. We ate our first meat bird. It was amazing.
You'll never go back.
It was amazing, and it was almost like when I fried it. It was almost like it was melting in my mouth.
You will never go back. And I can tell you right now, we are so spoiled at this point. And now I get angry when I think about all the years I ate store-bought meat, because I'm like, what are they feeding us and why did I allow it? Because once you eat your own chicken and your own meat, to die for.
I've
So
stopped
good.
shopping
Milk and honey.
as much for like chicken, because
Milk and honey.
the chicken breasts are like this big, and they're it doesn't look right, man. It doesn't look right.
Yeah, I think so. A couple things that I learned when we processed our meat birds, we didn't leave them sitting in the ice water bath for very long. And I was worried, if you're ever going to process your own chicken that's not a meat bird, even meat birds, what I've heard from Lisa and I looked online, it's ideal to leave them in the ice water bath for a day, like overnight until the next day. And we didn't do that. We left them in there for maybe a couple hours because we took break time after we got to that point. We're like, okay, we're going to bag them. We're going to break before we do it. Yes, Lisa.
But you put them in, you right away put them in the cooler.
Yes.
On ice. So I think that's what saved you.
Yep, on ice. But it's not like, you know how it is when you got ice in something. Not everything is as submerged in the ice as everything else. You know what I mean? But what I read was with meat birds, because ours were only 9 weeks old, because they're already young when they're being processed, it's not as important. But I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to do that next time because it's so much work. I love the idea of doing the bagging the next day. And I would like to cut up our chicken and take four, I don't know if anybody's ever done this, but I've done this before and it's so nice. And I've only done it with like 3 chickens at a time, not necessarily 4, but you get the whole chickens and you cut it up like you're going to be cutting it up, cut off your wings. You know what I mean? Because you got 4 wings per chicken. So then you got like a dozen wings that way. And then you cut off your chicken breasts and you cut off your leg quarters. And you save all your carcasses, right? Like you can
so just process them down more
that way. So then it's more like when you're going to the store. So the next time that I do the chicken, I'm going to take 2 out of the freezer so I can do like that, like how I like to do. Plus, if I'm cooking a lot, I'll cook for both families. One, because I love to feed my family. It's a super fun thing for me to do. And I'm sure that they love it too. And in all fairness, I had an amazing mother-in-law that fed us when I had little kids. And I'm just paying it forward. That's all I'm doing. Hey, Butler
Family Farm. Yeah, I've gotten into the rhythm. The only reason we don't part ours out is because I've gotten into the rhythm where either we'll spatchcock it, you cut out the backbone and lay it flat and cook it all at once. Or the other thing that I've been doing is parting it out when I defrost it, and then cooking the legs and the wings together, and then I cook the breast on the bone because it's a lot juicier. It's like a hotel breast like they do for turkeys.
Yeah.
And so that'll get us through, lunch and dinners. And
Mm-hmm.
so it just makes it really
Yeah.
easy.
And there's the two of you. So that totally makes sense too. Hey, when you guys spatchcock it, because I just saw this done like recently, do you grill it? How do you cook it when you
Oh
do
yeah. All different ways. All different
Mm.
ways.
Oh my
We
gosh.
do it with turkey, we do it with chicken. And yeah, it's really great because you spatchcock it and you throw it on the smoker grill, or I've
So
even put it in the oven.
when we lived in Arizona in the valley, you could go to a carniceria, they're called, and it's like a meat.
Yeah.
All these. Oh my goodness! I don't know if there's
So
probably
like
a
a
lot of
butcher.
people that haven't heard of this because anyway. Where you're located,
It's a
your
butcher, basically.
carnicerias, you know what all that stuff is if you live in the Southwest. But we went there and we would buy their grilled chickens. And I knew that they grilled them in some way like that because of how it came, but I did not know what it was called. Never thought too much about it. It was really good though. Gear garden, so funny. Yeah, that's awesome. It's all of it's a learning experience, though, Dani.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, like you said, that we let ours sit overnight, and because it's like by the time you set up, you sterilize everything all throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
and then because it's only two of us, so you get everything butchered, and then the coolers are full. And what we do is we take a strap and we strap the coolers closed so nothing can get in it, and we've not had an issue with that. And then because they're pretty darn heavy when they're full of chicken and water and ice.
Yeah.
um
How
and
many
so
chickens do you typically process at once?
oh, we used to be very bullheaded and do them all, and now we don't do that. So basically, Dani, however many we get, we will go through and look at them and only take the largest ones. And if we feel some need more time to grow out, we will. We have 50 Cornish cross coming in
50
July.
total. Wow.
Yeah. But typically we usually use a rule of thumb is like one meat bird per week for a chicken, because then we had turkey, we had pheasant, we have beef, all that. But now we're trying to figure extra because we're almost out of last year's, because Ryan was concerned that we were going to not have room. And so now we have plenty of room because we're only down to like 2 freezers.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to. So we ordered 50 Cornish cross, and then I'll also have 5 black copper Marans coming
Awesome.
to go on
We're
the
gonna
flock.
we're gonna get more in the fall.
Nice.
I knew we're gonna get more that we did. So I had gotten 12. We lost 2. So we processed 10.
Nice.
Our first time around. And Lisa, it was you that suggested that when I was talking about how many to get, I think you suggested getting like 12 to 15 tops the first time around. That was such a great suggestion, because it is when it's processing day, your first time, it feels like the process is very clunky. In spite of the fact that we watched lots of videos, in spite of that fact, it still felt clunky. Like
It is.
We live on a hill, like we're kind of in these rolling mountains, I guess. And so where we process them is down the hill. So it was like, oh shoot, I need to go up to the house for this. So I walk up here, and it's a good football length, I'd walk up here. I was so wore out by the end of the day, like I had been exercising or running all day or something. And then you're on your feet all day. I was, plucking. Everybody was doing their own, whatever their chore was. But
it takes time to get the process down.
Do you guys you got a plucker, right, Lisa?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just easier because it's only 2 of us.
There's
we don't
only
have an
2
army
of you. I was
right, so
talking
it's
about
just
you.
easier.
I was like, Lisa is amazing. Lisa
But
is amazing.
But the pheasants we could not put in there because they were small, and we were afraid the plucker would tear them apart.
Yeah.
So what we did was we plucked those by hand.
Yeah.
I was thinking I would start out like this fall and get like 6.
That's a good number.
Just a
Great
few.
number.
That's a good number because you might lose one.
Yep.
Just be careful when you're putting your water dish in there because they'll want to run up under there and you won't even know that they do it.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, I hang my waterer from the ceiling. So.
I know, Lisa. I don't know what to say for myself half the time. You know what I mean? It's just. And then you'll hear this random chirping and you're like, where is that coming from?
I know I've got turkeys flying around in the
Yeah, it was awful.
in the brooder. I'm
feel
sorry,
so
Grandma.
bad.
Mountain Grandma.
Yeah. Hey, does anybody, we are at 1:00. Does anyone have questions for Dani or Lisa or I?
Yeah, bushcraft. We did that with ducks. We had 2 drakes. Gear Gryden has a question. That's awesome. Go ahead, Gear Gryden. But yeah, bushcraft. We did that with.
Oh God, he's got a question.
Yeah.
I can just imagine.
We ended up skinning them. Wait, now we're at 59. He's
I knew
mixing
it was
it
going
up
to be
this
something
week.
funny.
He's mixing it up this week.
Oh my goodness. I learned something on every one of these lives. It's so
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, Suburban Hillbilly says that her chickens are like a food on demand thing. I was thinking of getting some heavier breeds, like like the Bressie, things like that, to be able to grab a few here and there.
Yeah.
Like I'd like some chicken soup, throw them in the crock pot, get nice and tender.
I think the hardest part is, for me anyway, once you've had Cornish cross, it's really, really hard to compete.
I could see that, Lisa, because
I've been told,
you have them for 8 to 9 weeks, and we didn't have the ideal infrastructure.
You made it work.
We made it work. We used a big tub, and my husband, Mountain Grandpa, cut like a big doorway in it for, you use what you have, right? Repurpose things. And we had a smaller, there was a lot of carrying them in and out. They were in the house a little longer and they're like baby Huey. They're like these huge babies. They're just ginormous. But still, it's over in like 8 to 9. Ours were 9 weeks. And there was one little dude who he'd just flat out kick his legs behind him and just eat like this. He was tired of walking. You could see where they were having a difficulty getting around, so you don't feel bad about processing them.
Yeah, I saw my first Cornish cross last year at Homesteaders of New England. Jack from the Mindful Homestead, who put it all together, had brought 2 of his birds for a processing demo. And I'm like, oh my God, how do they even walk? It's like a mercy to process them, because if they live much longer, hearts are gonna explode or their legs are gonna break.
It's like having
hey Aidenir.
Jabba the Hutt. Tons of Jabba the Hutts running around. They are so like we had corn last year. We had some Cornish, we lost some Cornish, and then we had Royal Grey broilers and some Rudd Rangers. So they were all mixed in there. And to sit and watch them, the Cornish cross were like this. The feeder.
Now, another thing that he does is he only gets, so when he orders them, he only orders roosters.
Yep. They're quicker.
So I think that's going to be my plan.
We had a mix, and 2 of them were roosters. One of them we called Short Stuff. I was surprised because he was like the little one, but he got to be probably one of the heaviest birds in there, which was crazy. But it's a great impression though.
Well, they get so disgusting. They smothered one of my turkeys and killed it at the feeder.
Oh my gosh.
Because they're just like,
wow. Yeah. How we had them set up too, because the other part about these birds that's kind of gross. They slide their bodies across the ground.
Mhm.
You know, they have massive turds. It's just, but what we would do is we had to let them out of the little area every morning, and then we'd put them back up at night. And the area that we let them out of, we put a fence around. So every night we would rake. And then that way they didn't get so dang nasty, because they'll get nasty on you real quick.
Well, that's
Mhm.
why a lot of people use tractors, because you're able to move them to a new area. Whereas we don't have that luxury, so we have to put bedding in there, and so that's why we switched to the newer setup down in the back, because it's a lot easier. Because man, they just poop. It's all they do is poop,
Eat and
Mhm.
eat.
eat and poop.
Eat and poop. Yep. Did you see?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to use a tractor setup
Yeah.
for
If
them.
you have flat ground, that's
If
great.
you can, that would be ideal. Yeah, we don't have enough flat ground.
I mean, the area where I'm going to have the garden, and that's kind of like the temporary, like here's the initial like chicken and goat areas that I'm going to
Yeah.
have set up. But I've noticed that like it's very like this.
Yeah.
So at some point, I'm going to have to pay to have somebody come out with a grader and level it out so that I can build my garden beds, and it's
You can
probably where
still make
the
it happen though.
greenhouse is going to
We're,
go.
we're pretty slopey here. But what you'll see is one side of the garden bed might be like this, and on the other side it's like this. You know what I mean? The wall,
Mhm.
because of the height difference. So you could make it work.
Yeah.
Tractors are great. And Aiden, here we're talking about meat birds. We got our first meat birds this year. Lisa's a pro at them, and Danny's planning on getting them. So we're
Mhm.
all in a different little phase of the meat bird thing. Bressies are. I want some Bressies too. Um,
Mhm.
for one thing, great side hustle opportunity there. Very
Mhm.
difficult to find. You're going to pay like $10 for a dadgum chick,
Yeah.
which
I was thinking I would get a rooster
mhm,
and then maybe a hen or two, and then add them into my
that's what I.
regular flock and
Well,
have the rooster breed all
yeah,
my ladies
yeah.
and create some crosses. And
Hmm.
I'd be interesting to see what happens with the speckled Sussex.
Yeah, I like the idea of Bressies are supposed to be the best tasting meat ever. So compared to Cornish cross, I'll be interested to see that comparison. But I like the idea that they're not. I don't know, Cornish cross. Do you feel like they're GMO'd, Lisa? Like the Cornish cross hens? They're not genetically modified, right?
No, they're just selectively bred to cross that way. Like it's a what is it?
No,
No?
I have
I,
no idea.
Look, there's a big controversy about that. I'm not getting into it,
Is
but
there? Oh, I didn't know there was. I
well,
was just
there's a big
thinking out loud.
controversy over a lot of things that are
Oh,
GMO. And I
true.
mean, on the other side of it, farmers need some stuff that is GMO to ensure that they have good crops and get
God,
paid. So
we
I'm
all
going to stay away from that.
So
Mhm.
But
also,
that they are bred to be monsters
yeah,
for American culture
yeah,
in 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
to
Yeah.
eat,
That's not
I mean,
natural.
and
for me, I love
things happen to
the
you,
idea of sustainability.
and you can't reproduce them. So that's what I like with the idea of the Bressies is you can
Same.
reproduce them.
They're
That's what I like.
sustainable.
Yep.
They're sustainable.
Do you? Does anybody know how long the Bressies live? I'm assuming they live as long as any other chicken does.
They're a chicken breed. That's my understanding. I just never had. I never ate a breastie, and every time I ask somebody about it and say, "Well, what do you think about the breastie?" They're like, "First time raising them, first time raising them." So, like, I
Mhm.
don't know that I want to get into it until I hear some good stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want some. I'll let you know if I get.
I want some too. I mean, definitely. But the other thing is the price of hatching eggs are off the charts, so I'd have to buy chicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
Because the hatching eggs are just, when I was looking around at Moran's, I couldn't believe the price of eggs.
yeah. It's
And that's just
crazy.
not worth it to me,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
especially when there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm doing the chicks also, which are like $10 a piece, and there's a minimum sometimes. So that's why I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, like when you get turkeys, there's usually a minimum of like 5.
All right.
Brussie live between 5 and 8 years.
Okay, cool.
But I do want to try the Brussies.
Me too.
Mm.
Diesel.
We'll have to do that, and then each of us, like, I want to compare it to the Cornish cross meat and see how it tastes.
We've had Red Rangers, we've had Red Rangers, we've had the Royal Grey broilers, and they were good. They took longer.
Yeah.
They took less feed, but they took
More money.
longer. But the only one that I was not thrilled about was the Royal Grey broilers, and the only reason we bought them is they had them in the store, and we bought a ton of them.
Yeah.
Because we were concerned, so we bought them. But they were a little chewier, but they weren't awful. The Red Rangers have really good flavor to them, but they don't have the large breast meat and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know.
Mm-hmm. All right. Before we wrap it up, anybody got any last questions? Thank you so much for coming on today, Dani. This has been
Yay! I'm so glad that I quit my job, and so I was able to come here. So
Have a good afternoon, Suburban Hillbilly. Yeah, thanks for being here, Dani.
looking
Yay.
forward to seeing all of the progress with the new home and the property. That's going to be so fun.
Cross fingers.
You'll do it.
You can do it. We just had Big Dreams Tiny Budget on here last week, and she's doing the same thing.
Yeah, I've got to come up with about another $8,000 this month. So
Oh, wow.
we'll see.
Goodness.
But
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. You know me is my traditional style of we just continue to bash at it until it pushes through.
Right. That's right. Perseverance. Mhm.
Typical messy Dani style.
That's right. It's the way to get it done. Well, thanks everybody for coming. It was good seeing you all. And Dani, thanks again for coming in and chatting with us today. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
Thanks
Good
for having
luck to
me.
you, Dani.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody next week, Tuesday, 12 o'clock Central, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Same bat channel.
That's right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.